I was in Las Vegas for a jiu-jitsu tournament. Usually I'd bunk up with fellow competitors to save some cash, but this time I was flying solo. In my usual last-minute style, I booked an Airbnb close to the Vegas Strip. Didn't pay much attention to the neighborhood, a big mistake. It wasn't the greatest, but I thought, hey, I won't be hanging around there much anyway. The host's profile picture? A flower. Yeah, not much to go on. I rolled up to the spot. No host in sight. Got a key code for the studio, and can you believe it was 1234567? Major red flag right there. The Wi-Fi password, in case you're curious, was the original password. Yeah, I figured the host wasn't much of a tech guy. Fast forward to 9:30 p.m., and things took a creepy turn, tapping on my window as I'm about to doze off. I hit back with a loud, huh? The tapping stops, but it starts up again a minute later. This time, I go with a solid hello, and the tapping stops. Now I'm on edge. I sent a message to the host about it. An hour later, they hit me back, claiming they were just dropping off water, assumed I was asleep, and made their exit. Still feeling uneasy, I thought of taking a late-night walk or a shower to shake off the weird vibes, but something told me to stay put. Fast forward 45 minutes. It's midnight and I hear noises outside. Someone's messing with the key code on my door. The lock disengages, door unlocks, and I panicked. I dash to the door, slam it shut and scream, "This is my room, leave." The intruder, in a deep, defiant voice, insists. Madel said it's their room. Madel is the host. I called the police. They got here and they weren't surprised of my story. They waited till my Uber came so I could leave. The host's shady alibis and the whole setup vibe still gives me goosebumps. If they were privy to my East Coast flight details. I think it was some sort of setup. Maybe they tried to rob me. Or maybe something a lot worse. I don't know, this still haunts me to this day.
I was traveling for work and had to book an Airbnb for one night. I didn't want to spend too much money on a fancy hotel, so I decided to book a small house in the city. The pictures on the Airbnb website looked nice, and the reviews seemed positive, so I didn't think twice before booking it. As I arrived at the house, everything seemed fine. The host, a middle-aged man, welcomed me and showed me around. He seemed friendly and the house was clean and well-maintained. I settled in and started working on my laptop, trying to finish some pending work before calling it a night. As the night approached, I started feeling uneasy. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I tried to brush it off as my imagination and focused on my work. But then I heard footsteps outside in the house downstairs. At first, I thought it was just the creaking of the old house. But as the footsteps got louder and louder, I couldn't ignore them anymore. I called the police thinking that someone had broken into the house. As I waited for them to arrive, I could feel my heart racing. What if someone was really inside the house? What if they were armed? My mind was filled with all sorts of terrifying thoughts. Finally, the police arrived and searched the house. To my horror, they found a man downstairs. It turned out to be the host of the Airbnb. He was quiet the entire time, not saying a word. One of the officers told me that this wasn't the first time he had done something like this. Apparently, he had a history of breaking into the houses he put up on Airbnb. I was in shock. I couldn't believe that I had stayed in the same house as a criminal. The police arrested the man, and I was left alone in the house, trying to process everything that had happened. The next day, I checked the Airbnb website and found that the host's account had been taken down. But to my horror, I found out that he had created multiple accounts in the past and had done the same thing to other unsuspecting guests. From that day on, I made sure to thoroughly research my accommodation options before booking them. You never know who might be lurking behind those seemingly perfect Airbnb listings.
I had been searching for a job for months, sending out countless resumes and going on numerous interviews. So when I finally received an invitation for an interview in Arizona, I was ecstatic. The only problem was finding a place to stay that wouldn't break the bank. That's when I stumbled upon an Airbnb listing in an isolated area just half an hour from my interview spot. The pictures showed a cozy house with a beautiful desert view, and the price was too good to pass up. I quickly booked the place and eagerly awaited my trip. As I arrived at the Airbnb, I couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. The area was desolate and the house seemed to be the only one around for miles. But I brushed off my unease and focused on my job interview the next day. I spent my days working on my laptop and exploring the town, trying to calm my nerves. But as the sun set and darkness enveloped the desert, the atmosphere in the house changed. Strange noises could be heard outside, like a tap on the window. I dismissed it as just the wind and continued working. But then it happened again. A tap on the window, twice. I got up to look outside, but there was no one in sight. I tried to brush it off as my imagination, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. Later that night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard a clicking noise outside my room. I cautiously peered out the window and saw a figure lurking in the darkness. My heart raced as I quickly closed the curtains and locked the doors. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, the person was gone. They searched the area, but found no one. The next night, I was on a high alert, my nerves constantly on edge. As I was about to fall asleep, I heard a clicking noise coming from inside the closet. My heart stopped as I realized someone was inside the house with me. I quickly packed my things and left for a hotel, too terrified to stay another night in that Airbnb. The next morning, I reported the incident to the police and they launched an investigation. As they questioned the Airbnb host, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. The host seemed too calm and nonchalant about the whole situation, and when the police searched the house, they found a hidden camera in the closet. It was clear that the host had been watching and possibly even stalking me during my stay. I shuddered at the thought of what could have happened if I hadn't left when I did. The Airbnb host's possible involvement in the creepy occurrences still remains a mystery, but one thing was for sure: I would never stay in an isolated Airbnb again. From that day on, I made sure to thoroughly research and read reviews before booking any accommodations. The job interview may not have gone as planned, but I was just grateful to have escaped that Airbnb with my safety intact.